when you're engaging with an audience for the first time, you're kind of starting out in their mind as a flat image, something that's two-dimensional. And as you engage from different perspectives, different channels, with different messages, different parts of that audience, you're showing a different side of yourself every time. And you're building out your image in a way that's essentially three-dimensional in their mind. And I learned this the hard way when I was doing telephone sales. I was selling mobile marketing technology to realtors at the height of the recession. It was really difficult work. And I was getting hung up on all the time. They just didn't want to justify the spend. And what I noticed was, once I started blogging, and blogging about the challenges that they were facing and how social media could address those challenges, I got all sorts of comments. And I would go ahead, as part of my daily process, and call every single person that commented on my blog. And they weren't annoyed, and they didn't hang up, because I was three-dimensional in their minds. I was the person whose blog post had helped them so much that they commented on it. I was the person that had given them value already. They knew to a certain extent who I was. So instead of a stranger on the other end of the telephone, which I was before I started blogging, I was now the person that has that great blog.
Yeah, you got to tell them exactly what to do, how they can help you, or else most people won't do it. They're too busy. And 99% of the time, the way that you want them to help you is super simple and easy to communicate. Say, email your CEO like I did with one of the publications I was trying to write for, took out an ad saying, hey, everyone at this company, look at my writing, and email your editor-in-chief and let them know that I'm a good writer and that they should consider me. And sure enough, this person emailed me and we chatted on the phone and it went from there. And that's a perfect example of how you really just got to tell people what to do and they'll do it, not because they're drones, but because they're busy.
We hear so much about influencer relations. It's a hot topic, it's a growth industry. There are probably some of you here that are engaged in that field professionally. But I think that the way that we approach it typically is a little bit backwards. So typically we're looking for influencers that are existing. They have existing audiences. They've already earned their credibility with those audiences. And we're just kind of trying to get a piece of that. We're trying to get access through them to those audiences. But I think that an interesting approach is to actually grow with the influencers. So find them when they're emerging and use your brand and everything you have as a platform to allow them to grow as influencers. That relationship's going to be that much tighter.
There's something about that I like, because it's pure utility to these people. They want to know about their own health and their fitness. They want to track that progress. Doesn't matter if it's couched in some theory or some movement. This is purely useful to them.
I found my way around the gatekeepers through social media by taking out that Facebook ad. And I thought, you know, I'm onto something here, and it's bigger than just for job seekers. So that's what I explore in the book, is the way that you can actually get access to people and power and to influence through social media in ways that you could not have done before.
Everyone's talking about how brands need to be human, but that's the worst thing that could happen. Humans are responsible for every single bad thing in the world. So yes, okay, let's mediate that and say humanistic. Emulate the best of humanity, the best of your audience. And you can actually measure this. I told an example of when companies use the language that people are reviewing, that they're using in positive reviews of their products, when they use that same language and those language patterns in their press releases and product announcements and advertising and product descriptions, engagement rates and all the good indicators go up.
I found a pattern. Gatekeeping technologies and personnel, they follow the mass adoption of communications technologies. So if you go all the way back to the telephone, first you get secretaries being trained to screen out calls. That became a big part of their duties. And then you have later things like voicemail and caller ID. And there are still millions of gatekeepers today.
When they're learning about that stuff, they're learning about data, essentially. And they'll be able to take that knowledge and that lens that they've developed to think about their own privacy and global security and apply it to all sorts of data.
We're entering this era that I call the end of assumptions, where it's no longer safe to assume anything about that audience. The data is there. There's data visibility to tell us, finally, exactly what they want, how they want it delivered, how you should approach them, and how you should speak to them.
Not every Fortune 500 CEO is on Twitter. In fact, very few of them are. But that's not to say that the people that work for them and inform their decisions are not. So if you can access those people and get kind of a secondary connection, you're doing something that you just could not do 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago.
So social media is giving us tons of data that we never had before about what people want. And the great news is that it's largely cheap or free. It's there for the taking. So I really believe that it's going to be a big differentiator, and already is. Which brings us to data literacy. And that's essentially the ability to use and understand data. When I talk about data literacy, of course, you might think of economists, data scientists, mathematicians, and that's at the extreme end of the spectrum. But I think the average marketing or PR team doesn't have the kind of data literacy that it really takes to compete today.
If you approach it right, and you really see the value on a global, individual, and business level scale of rising data literacy, you'll start to see the opportunities that are out there. You'll start to see things like, my competitors aren't thinking the same way I'm thinking about this, and they're being reactionary, so I want to be proactive.
If you want to really engage with someone at the top of an organization, disagree with them. Tell them why. Show them the way that you think. And then just like those sales calls to real estate agents I was talking about, once you do approach directly, you're going to have that much more of a chance to get their attention. Because you're not one of the yes people. You're not one of the salespeople that does the same thing as the yes people and tells them everything they do is right. You're one of the people that actually gave them the respect that they deserve by showing them that how your thinking differs with them.
One of the few ways that companies talk about this exchange of data for value is in the context of advertising. It seems like that's all they've really figured out how to talk about. I don't think consumers are really that excited about more relevant ads. Are you guys? So this is the only thing they'll ever say, right? We want to serve you more relevant ads. Well, if you're a company and that's your only value proposition, I think you're really in for it.
So social proof is a heuristic, which is a word for a mental shortcut that we use to make decisions. And the social proof heuristic tells us to make the same choices that others are choosing. So we're constantly, humans, looking for evidence of what other humans are doing and subconsciously trying to go in that same direction. And social media brings social proof to the fore, to the surface. All these indicators that you hear about, like Twitter followers, clout scores, things like this, you also hear that they're useless, right? Well, I disagree. I think that they're useless in isolation, but they can be really powerful to be evidence of your activity. Because essentially what you're doing by having, I don't know, a lot of Twitter followers or a lot of LinkedIn connections or whatever it is that you care about is showing the world that others care about what you have to say and that they're connecting with you. Highlighted in green there is my social proof. I had been nominated for a 2010 Texas Social Media Award. And here's the secret. You could nominate yourself. I didn't lie, though. But that was social proof. Now, media reels are used for two things, one of which we're already familiar with, of course, is to show producers that you're comfortable on camera, that your CEO is comfortable on camera, and they're going to want to choose him. But the other reason that we don't often think about is social proof. You're also showing that producer that other producers care who this guy is.
So in the same way that being able to read and write empowers individuals and society, being data literate empowers us to take advantage of this abundant resource, data, and convert it into value.
You guys know CMO is the shortest tenure of all positions in the C-suite. It's 18 months, and that's actually a high point. It used to be 12 months. These people are under a lot of pressure. And there wasn't a resource out there dedicated to helping them succeed. And that seemed absurd to Adobe. And in retrospect, it should seem absurd to all of us. So this brand stepped in, not a news organization, but they hired journalists. And they create a ton of content, and it's incredibly successful.
Because I'll tell you, from a marketing perspective, all we're thinking about is how can we target you more with that data. Not how can we actually give you something that's useful. Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads are really powerful, especially for job seekers. I find that it makes most sense to advertise the fact that you're available to work or that you're interested in a specific company, and then link that to a page on your blog or website, or just create a Tumblr or something that is social proof that you know what you're doing. It's all about the story that you tell. If you're this kind of unsympathetic job seeker and it's all about how great you are and it's almost like you don't need this anymore, or if you've got this great product and you're not humble about it and you are just kind of posturing, people pick up on that really easily. So if you are an accessible, interesting, humanistic company, if you are an authentic person, people will want to help you. And when the time comes that you ask for their help in a simple way, like emailing their CEO, they're going to do it. If you are too rigid or bombastic, they're not going to do it. It's that simple. And it's not everyone, but a high enough percentage of people that interact with your content will.
I was looking the other day, the CEO of Thomson Reuters. This is a company with over $10 billion of revenue a year. There are 1,500 open jobs on their website. And this guy has his personal blog, and no one comments on it. What are those job seekers thinking? You've got direct access to the CEO of this company. And he's also on Twitter. He responds to tweets. He responds to comments when people do. It's amazing that people aren't using this avenue of opportunity that's opened up because of social and only because of social.
This is Thomson Reuters?
Yes.
I hope my friends at Bloomberg are listening.